Hello everybody, it's a Game Slay here. Today we just are reacting. We're going to react at the video, but the live streaming isn't working right now. It's not working right now because it should be a day on it, but it's not working as it used to do, so we just gonna do reacting to Wansee Entertainment again. It doesn't make any sense. So we're just gonna have it though, but let's start the video anyway. It's not gonna work. So this video we're gonna react to Wansee is True School Horror Story. So I think it would be good for a true horror story. So let's go watch it. True School Horror Story.
My name is Kiana, and this creepy thing happened to me 3 years ago.
Oh.
I'm an actual musician and part of the music club, a violinist to be specific. Well, every year we always get invited to a 3-day camping event from another school.
Oh.
This year, we got invited from a school in a very rural town.
Wow.
And it's an old private school, and it takes about a 9 to 11 hour bus ride to get there.
Alright.
So, as we're driving into the town, it seemed active and noisy.
Oh.
So I felt at ease. But just minutes later, I noticed that the crowd noises had vanished. I looked out the window and noticed we were headed to the woods, which is completely odd.
Wow.
Finally, after a long ride, we got to our destination. It looked like a mansion with a big gate and a signage that said St. Louis Academy. When we pulled up, an old lady came out to escort the 5 of us and our advisor inside. And that's pretty much how our day started. They had prepared 2 rooms for us to stay in. The boys were in one room, and we 3 girls were in the next. While unpacking and preparing our stuff, the students out in the hall stared at us while they passed by.
Oh, wow.
They were wearing really proper uniforms, and they all looked gloomy and kind of creeped out. But it really didn't bother me. I thought maybe it was just because this school was really strict. So, after the first day of long music classes, we finally got back to the room, and I took a long bath to try and relax. Now, I've been going to these types of camps for years, and you'd think I'd be used to sleeping at other places, but I'm not.
What?
I'm still not comfortable at sleeping at other places. So that night, after much tossing and turning, I looked at the clock. 2:30 a.m. and I still hadn't gotten any sleep.
Jeez.
I closed my eyes and tried to burrow my face into the pillow when suddenly I heard a tap, like a footstep. I looked around and saw that everyone else was sleeping in their beds. Then I heard it again. Tap. Another footstep. I started to become pretty nervous. The footsteps sounded like they were just walking all around us, and I could definitely hear it. I started sweating and just tried to cover myself under my blanket. It was so creepy. The next thing I realized, it was already morning. While getting ready and doing our usual morning routine before class, I asked everyone, "Hey, did anyone else hear footsteps last night?" I tried to sound casual and not be creepy. Maya just laughed while curling her hair and said, "It's only your imagination." But Lennel, on the other hand, was spooked out. "So you heard it too?" she anxiously asked.
Heard it too. Oh.
We all froze, and Maya turned around. "You mean it wasn't just a dream?" she said. All 3 of us got really quiet, and there was this eerie feeling in the room. No one knew what to say, so we just kept quiet the whole morning. The boys seemed in good condition, but the 3 of us girls were totally creeped out. In fact, we were so creeped out, we couldn't focus, and ended up being scolded because we weren't paying attention the whole day. By the time classes were all done and it started to become night again, it only got worse.
What?
The creeped out level went way up. And Leno was so freaked out She couldn't even focus on sleeping.
Damn.
Maya and I were in the same boat. But after a few more hours, Leno actually fell asleep.
Oh no.
But Maya and I continued to chat to distract ourselves. It was around 2:30 a.m. again when we heard a faint footstep. We both got goosebumps and looked right at each other. The footsteps became louder and louder. But this time, we both felt a rush of icy cold air hit us. We dove under the blankets, hoping that whatever it was would just leave already. I can't say for sure, but I thought something brushed up against me, and I swear I could feel its breath on the back of my neck. Let's just say, neither of us slept that night. I tried to shake off the creepiness in the morning and at least focus for the last day of classes, though Maya seemed to be having a really terrible day. She couldn't focus at all. We didn't even want to talk about what we heard or maybe even felt. We just wanted to get out of there. That afternoon, our bus arrived, and we were really grateful that we could now leave that school. The other students saw us off, but I seemed to notice that not everyone had a smile. Instead, they were all looking at us with a very wicked look.
Yeah.
On the way home, Maya got sick on the bus. In fact, all of us girls were feeling really weird. It was then that the bus driver said something very strange that I will never forget. He said, "I can't believe you actually had fun staying overnight at that school." Later, we looked up that school and found other people posting about it. Turns out that the room we were staying in was the so-called isolation room. A detention room for students who got in trouble or got bad performances in class. They'd get locked up for a day, or sometimes even weeks. We also found out that just 2 years ago, before we came to that place, 3 students took their lives in that very room.
So they took their lives.
Which gave me the creeps. Did they hear what we heard? I'll never know, but what I do know is that that is the most traumatizing thing that has ever happened to me.
That's crazy. They did not know it was the mom. They knew it was something else from it, but it's these guys who was in that room were in. It wasn't go for it. It was so much into destruction. So we're gonna watch like 3 videos because I know these videos are good. I cannot stop watching this channel. So we're just gonna watch 3 videos only. We're just gonna watch 3 videos. That's all we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch 3 videos because I'm not trying to go over it. So this video we're gonna watch is Devil Girl Horror Story Animated. So let's watch it. Just a second. Devil Girl.
Have you ever seen Satan?
No.
You might think that such a thing would only exist in movies, yet I've seen one in reality.
Really?
The story starts 12 years ago when I was in middle school. My best friend, Amy, I used to call her the world's kindest girl every day. But at some point, I had to take that back. One day her eyes became strange. It's hard to explain, but whenever I looked into her eyes, I felt an enormously empty feeling. I tried to find out what that feeling was, and I finally realized it was despair. I felt despair. I did not have a clue why I was falling into this feeling, although I was just looking at her. So since then, I tried to not look her in the eyes anymore. One day, she held my hands and asked me, "Do you have any wishes? Do you want good grades? Do you want to go to a good university? Or do you want a boyfriend? You can have whatever you want." That was so out of context, so I asked her what she meant. She replied, "You can have anything you want, as long as you do what the devils want instead." For that moment, her eyes looked dark red, as if they were full of red veins. I screamed with shock, and her eyes went back to normal, Then, she held my hand and took me to the back alley.
Weird as hell.
She took something out of her pocket.
What is it?
Inside the black bag were animal fur balls and blood. I screamed and asked what it was. Then she replied, "I sacrificed the cat's soul to a Satan. Then they granted my wish." She showed me a picture of a boy in her class, and she said, "Soon, he will be my boyfriend."
What?
I was in great shock. She also told me, "Make a deal with Satan, and you will have whatever you want." I decided to cut ties with her. It turned out that she was known as a mentally ill misfit at school. I was avoiding her for a long time, until one day she spoke to me in the corridor. "Mammon says he's going to punish you." "Mammon?" I asked. Suddenly, she went back 90 degrees and screamed in a tremendously thick and creepy voice, "I will cut your body into 1,000 pieces and scatter them all around the world so that no one will find your body. And the crows and worms will eat up all of your body. Your soul will also vanish." Suddenly, my eyes went black.
When he said a creepy eye, like, you know the girl has her back all the way back and have her hands on her feet too? I think that's some scary movie reference, but I don't know what movie reference that's from.
A moment later, I opened my eyes to a screaming sound that would burst my eardrums out, and I felt strange. I was biting my wrist frantically, and around me, 5 girls were trying to pull my hand off. In front of me, Amy was laughing maniacally, lying prone on the floor. In shock, I loosened up my jaw that was biting on my wrist, and my friends pulled my arms away. My wrist was bleeding.
Wow.
If it wasn't for my friends, I might have died because of the torn blood vessel of my wrist. I could not tell the truth to my parents, as I was afraid that they would send me to a psychiatric ward. Ever since, I was so terrified that I've been avoiding Amy. I moved to a different city as I became a high school student, and luckily, I could get away from her. Nothing happened to me anymore.
Okay, that's good.
Time went by, and when I became a university student, I heard news about Amy by chance.
Okay, what is it?
When she was in high school, she went camping with her 3 best friends, and 2 of the friends bit each other's necks and died.
Oh, wow.
One of them ran away and called the police. When the police arrived, Amy was talking to her friends' bodies. The survived friend testified to the police. "Amy always said that her dream is to become a first-class demon. To do that, she said that she has to kill 33 people. She also said that she should take human souls and change them into demon souls.
What?
She begged us to become her sacrifice. She told us that she would make us born as demons if we let her do it.
Why?
She said that we could receive eternal pleasure as a gift." Her body was trembling as she said that. Amy is now in jail.
Finally.
As time went by, I became a mature adult.
Oh.
But whenever I think of her, I shed tears in fear. What would happen to me if I had been friends with her all along?
True.
I might have become her sacrifice.
True. Yeah, what would happen if you were? Yeah, what happened if you were her sacrifice? What happened if you were her sacrifice? Oh. That's what this is, Shiny Town.
I've lost 97 pounds with new.
I have lost 25 pounds with you.
That's what's the Shiny Town. The Shiny Town.
My name is Max. I'm 16 now, and I was around 9 when my father first told me this story. We live in Wisconsin, and during the summer it gets really hot, so we would often have bonfires and grill. My father sat me down.
I paused this video. Did I watch this? No, this one came out on March 2nd. Okay. Good.
The fire blazing before us, giving my father's face an eerie glow.
Okay.
He told me that tonight was the perfect night for an old story, known well by the people from our home country. Years ago, there was a couple traveling by car at night. The sky had grown foggy and cool. The couple, who I will name Carla and Dion, had been driving all day to get to Dion's mother's house, and there were still many hours of driving ahead. And with the fog setting in, the need to sleep was weighing in on Dion. He told Carla to look out for a town to spend the night in. Keeping their eyes peeled, Carla spotted a small dim light glowing off in the distance. As they approached, the light grew brighter. It was an oil streetlight leading into a small town. Carla and Dion drove around for a bit before pulling over by a large, old-looking wooden building. Maria's Inn was written on the old sign outside the door. This looks like a good place to spend the night, Dion stated. Carla didn't respond. A cold feeling had crawled up her spine the minute they passed the streetlight. But before she could argue, Dion had left the car and entered the inn. Hesitantly, Carla followed Dion inside. The smell of fire filled her nose, but nothing was burning. Carla found Dion speaking to an old woman. She was sitting on an old wooden rocking chair. Carla walked up to her husband. Honey, who is this? Dion looked at Carla and smiled. This is Maria. She owns the inn and offered us a room. Dion looked back at Maria. Thanks again, ma'am. Carla looked...
Hold up. Let me get this straight. If the place is called Maria's Inn and Maria owns this place, that's not a good idea to stay here. Because the place is called Maria Inn. And Maria owns it. I don't think that's a good deal to stay here. Okay, this is going straight off.
At the old woman. She looked like she had been beautiful in her youth, but age hadn't treated her well. Wrinkles and spots had riddled her face now, and her veins protruded from her shaking hands. Curly white hair fell from a scarf that had been elegantly wrapped around Maria's head. Carla and Dion settled into the room. Despite how old and unused everything looked, the room was nice. One bed, a small table, a bathroom, and a window looking out over the river behind the building. Carla and Dion had just sat down when a knock startled the both of them. They looked at each other. Dion stood up and answered the door. Oh, hi, Maria, Dion said, relief filling his voice. Carla listened to their conversation and heard Maria mention a night service at a local church that she would be attending and how she would be pleased if Carla and Dion would join. Dion looked at Carla, and with some hesitation, Carla nodded, signifying that she would join. On the way to the church, Carla was never able to shake the eerie feeling that she had following her since the streetlight. When the church came into view, Carla was stunned. It was huge, a large steeple over the entrance, a massive bell beneath the stained glass cross, huge wooden doors leading into a dome-shaped room with a stage, and on the stage, a single, beautiful woman sang with an angelic voice.
Wow.
The church was filled with people, everyone in town according to Maria. The bad feeling Carla had grew worse. Maria, Dion, and Carla stood near the front of the stage where the woman singing continued to grow louder, and Carla noticed that the woman was glowing, and with every lyric she grew brighter, almost blinding. Carla looked away. Noticing Dion, Carla took him by his hand. He was still looking up at the woman, mesmerized, and this made Carla angry. After several moments, she forced Dion to look at her. I'm feeling ill. Can we go back to the inn? Carla said, nearly crying. Dion nodded and said goodbye to Maria, who begged them to stay. The woman's singing grew so loud and her body became so bright that Carla felt like she may explode. When they got back to the inn, Carla lay down immediately, falling asleep. When she woke, she knew immediately that something was off. It was far too bright. Carla opened her eyes. Dion was asleep next to her. She looked around and felt her heart drop to her stomach.
What?
Unable to speak, she shook Dion awake. Dion looked at Carla, then at the scene that she was so shocked at.
What'd you see?
What they thought was the inn in which they slept was a pile of wood and rocks.
Wow.
They looked further out and found that there was no town, no river, no church. Only large piles of rubble where the buildings used to be.
Oh, that's what
Their car was parked beside a large sign that was half buried in the ground. The wording was faded. Panicking, Carla and Dion ran to the edge of the town where the streetlight had been. Surprisingly, the streetlight stood tall, seemingly out of place in this ghost town. Suddenly, on the road beyond the streetlight, an older man on a cart being pulled by a donkey could be seen. Carla and Dion yelled to him. "What can I do for ya?" he asked. Carla explained the story hysterically, from the time they were driving, from when they woke up on the ground. The man listened, his face growing more and more grim. Carla looked him in the eyes. "Where is the town?" she asked breathlessly. The older man sighed. "I'm not sure how to answer that, dear. There used to be a town here, but it's been gone for almost 50 years.
Wow.
A bomb hit the church directly on the night of a service, killing everyone instantly. The only thing left was this very street light."
Wow.
Carla and Dion ran, leaving the man by the street light. Laughter could be heard from all around them as they got into their car. Carla and Dion headed straight for Dion's mother's house. Of course, she didn't believe them.
Wow.
No one did.
What?
They both went mad, knowing what they went through. They even tried to find the town a couple of times, but never did. Eventually, Carla and Dion went missing, and are still missing to this day. I'm not close with my father anymore, but I still tell his stories, and this has always been my favorite. Stay safe, and stay away from the lights.
Jeez. Dang. So, that is crazy. So, it wasn't a real place at all. It was just a deserted place. A deserted place. It's like a deserted place. I thought it wasn't real. I knew it wasn't real in my mind. I knew it wasn't. But why? I don't know. I will end it right here. I know this is a good video. I don't know why I'm doing it. But join the Community Squad. Love you. Bye-bye.